I'm not sure what it is. Cloudy, miserable. Well, it's good to have you here with me this morning. I'm so thankful that you are willing to spend your time with me for this hour. I really do appreciate it. And if it looks like I'm a bit weird, let me rephrase that. If it seems that I may look a bit weirder than usual. Let's put it that way. That's because I've got my leg up, so I'm a bit further away from the camera, and it may change the perception of things that you've probably gotten used to by this time. And why do I have my leg up? Well, because I'm suffering from what I think is my third attack of gout in I don't know how many years. And yes, it couldn't have come at a worse time, but hey, it is what it is. And the I'm on some pretty good drugs, so could be why I'm weirder than usual. Who knows? But I know some people already know about it, and for those of you who don't, well, yeah. If I suddenly fall sideways, it's gone completely wrong. Please do say hello. Good morning, Laurie. Good to see you here, and good morning, Karen. It's great to have you with me. I've got tons to go through, so I'm going to start off with the parish news. No real updates regarding the services. We are having the 8 o'clock. We are having the 10 o'clock service. And we are still having the drive-through, but again, it's only for half an hour from 11 a.m. till 11:30. The only difference I'd want to make is that if you are interested in going to any or either of the services, the 8 o'clock or the 10 o'clock, then just contact me. I'm going to ask Margot and Jay to send that out with the information through emails. So you'll have my contact information if you don't have it already. So if you want to come, please do let me know, and I'll just make sure that there's space, which there is at the moment, but you never know. So if you contact me, just don't turn up on spec. Then I can say yes, that would be great. As always, you need to know that masks are required to be worn at all times when inside the church, even coming into the church building, and that they have to be worn correctly. That is, the mask must cover both nose and mouth at the same time and at all times. Oh, yes, yeah. It's actually an album cover from one of my favorite bands, but it kind of fits the occasion, like all the time. Yes, so cover your mouth and nose at all times. It seems to be quite popular to see people on TV, in the streets, in stores even, where they just drop the mask below their nose. Think about it for a second. Why do you think when you go for a COVID test, and I'm sure if you've not had one, you've seen this on TV, because I've not had one, but I have seen it on TV gazillions of times, they stick a swab thing up your nostril. And that's because the virus congregates heavily in large numbers in your nasal passage. So if you have the virus, regardless of whether you show any symptoms or not, then you can breathe them out to other people if your face isn't covered. What's all the junk on the floor? Oh, Bill, you're so no. That is music. I had to make space so I could put this chair in so I could stick my foot up. So there you go. It is junk, but it's my junk. So imagine you've got the virus, you've got no symptoms, you drop your mask and you're breathing out. The virus is highly populated in this area. You're breathing out to people. If you don't have the virus and other people are doing the same thing as you, then you can be exposed and you get it yourself. Do you really want that to happen? Well, I don't know. Good morning, Holly. Good morning, Kit. And good morning, Bill, of the What's All the Junk on the Floor question. So if for whatever reason you're in church and you feel I have to remove my mask, then please go outside, fiddle with it, make yourself feel comfortable, however long it takes, and then come back in with your mask worn correctly. Good morning, Anne. Social distancing is also a requirement. I'm going to talk about this a bit later on, but it's so easy just to forget where you are. We're so used to being in church that when we enter church, it's like, phew, I can relax. Well, you can relax in the presence of the Lord, yes, but you cannot relax from the virus because it doesn't care. Um, and too many people are doing this kind of up close and personal mass to mass thing. Um, no, don't do that. Keep your social distancing going. And this last thing, which is please leave the building and don't congregate, is the hardest thing. And so we're looking at ways of creating some sort of visiting with each other that still ensures that we maintain social distancing, wear masks, and maintain each other's safety. I miss you all, and it's just really, really hard not to want to sort of just run around the building, or at the moment, hobble slowly, and just say hi to you all. But we've made it, what, 7 months? And we need to just keep going on and on and on. Like the Duracell bunny. Is it Duracell? Ever Ready? Is it Ever Ready? Oh, the rabbit. The one that goes on and on and on with a little drum. Dum, 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 dum. Good morning, Mary Beth. Now, people who should not attend, anyone who does not want to wear a mask, anyone who doesn't want to do social distancing as well, for that matter, anyone with a pre-existing condition or who lives with someone with a pre-existing condition, anyone who's either tested positive from COVID-19 or at least within the last 14 days, or has been with somebody who's been tested positive. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago, Energize the Bunny. Thanks, Kit. Josh, the organist, he did a lesson with somebody. He was teaching somebody who turned out to be COVID positive. So, as precaution, he didn't come he didn't do any practicing or come to the church for 12 days, well, 2 weeks. Now, that's all the normal news that I've been passing on, but here's something really interesting and really good, and this is from Kit. For all of you who've been to several of our Blessings of the Animal celebrations, you'll remember in the author's tent, somebody sitting with me, a young lady called Selena Shulz. And she is the young author of several books now, but it's a series of books called A Bed, a Buck, and a Buddy. And she wrote her first book when she was 8 years old. Gosh, she's an old author now. For some reason, Apple has just decided to tell me that because we're going to be having an update, I've got legacy software. Well, that's a nice time to tell me. But well, never mind. Yes, Selena Shulz. She sold books each year apart from this year, and she would donate the money to whichever charitable organization we had designated as the year's beneficiary. Although we didn't have the festival this year, well, not in our normal way, Selena would still like to benefit our Blessing of the Animals, and she is promoting sales of her 3 books this month. Selena will be donating 50% of the proceeds from this month's sales to St. Clement's in support of our Blessing of the Animals celebration. She is hosting a Facebook Live presentation this Saturday, October the 24th, from 10:30 a.m. till 11:30 a.m. Our Blessing of the Animals celebration is one of the topics she will be talking about. If you can see her, if you can tune in, please do. Now, each books are $10 a piece and are available through Amazon.com. And her Facebook page is A Bed, a Buck, and a Buddy. Because I am still learning how to use this program that I'm on here, hopefully, if you scroll down from the video you've got, you'll see a description. It'll say morning coffee, 10 a.m., blah, blah, blah. And then if you keep scrolling, you'll see a link to her Facebook page and also to one of the books, which I think it is the... Actually, I don't even know which book it is, but it's one of the books in the series. And hopefully those links will be live and will work. So all you need to do is click on the link to get to her Facebook Live, well, Facebook page, and then if you save it or follow it, then you will be able to see her on Saturday and see what she's up to. She's a lovely person. She really, I mean, for her age, her maturity is way beyond, uh, and she is a very inspiring person. She's just great. And if you support her, you'll be doing a very good thing. And thank you so much, Selena, for supporting us. We really do appreciate it. And it's really nice to think that somebody is still thinking about us as we try and muddle through what is a difficult time for everybody, which just shows you the caliber of person she is. So, like I say, there's a few links below this video, hopefully, fingers crossed, and they should all work. Two of them are for Selena, one to her Facebook page, one to the Amazon page with a book on it, which hopefully will let you know where her other books are. Oh, so does it also search on this? Yes, so for those of you on YouTube, A Bed, a Buck and a Buddy is the Facebook page. Oh, okay. Links to Selena's books are on the page, as is the Saturday event announcement. So just, if those links don't work that I've put in, and who knows, because I don't, not yet anyway. A bed, a buck, B-U-C-K, and a buddy is what you need to use as a search within Facebook, and then you'll come across Selena's books and the event. Phew, that's a lot, but she's really worth promoting. Not on YouTube. Okay, I'll have to sort that out later if I can. It's kind of weird, but there you go. Right, well, let's look at the COVID numbers for this week. I'm going to compare them to last week's. This is just where we are. Last week was 7,804,699 positive cases in the US. And this week it's 8,215,605. Now that's an increase in 410,906 in just a week. And so if you hear people saying, well, you know, things are going around the corner, more like going around the bend, because you know, you're in total denial if you say that, and you've got almost 500,000 positive cases in a week. Last week, number of deaths was 215,089. This week's number of deaths is 220,134, which is an increase of 5,045, or 721 people, Americans, dying each and every day, which is absolutely appalling. In Florida itself, the number is, according to Johns Hopkins, 756,727. I'm going to get this number right, it kills me. 756,727 positive cases, which gives a positivity rate of 13.9%. Now, if you go on any of the local government websites in Florida, you'll see that the positive rate is apparently below 14%. I think I trust Johns Hopkins more. So when it says it's 13.9%, it just shows you it's pretty bad. And the trend is upward because it's higher than last week. And the number of deaths is an appalling 16,021. Oh, did I say that? So Kit's correcting me. Note, there is no and in a bed, a buck, a buddy. I guess I've been saying a bed, a buck, and a buddy. Ignore the and. A bed, a buck, a buddy. Thanks. So we've got all these things going around, and each and every week I've highlighted a particular story. I'm not going to do that today. I'm not going to relate a particular story because the news is all about, at the moment, how we're being told that COVID-19 isn't a big deal. And if you get it, then you're set for life because you won't get it again. Which leads to this question, can you get reinfected with COVID-19? And the simple answer is yes, you can. So would you want to risk it? Well, I wouldn't. But I ended up when I was looking around on a website called fatherly.com. It's a parenting website for dads. And I've also included the link below, in theory, but maybe not on YouTube, to this article. But I'm going to read the article to you. It's a bit long, but I think this is important. Quote, the first case of reinfection with COVID-19 has been confirmed in the US. The reinfected patient is a 25-year-old man from Nevada who was diagnosed first in April and then again 6 weeks later after 2 negative tests in between. This is the 5th confirmed case of COVID-19 reinfection in the world, although about 20 more are unconfirmed and others have probably gone undetected. And while it's rare, reinfection has 2 very important implications. 1, if you've been infected and recovered, you still need to wear a mask and social distance. And 2, herd immunity is not a viable approach to ending the pandemic. According to Danny Altman, a professor of immunology at Imperial College London, about 90% of people with symptomatic COVID-19 will develop the antibodies they need to defend against the coronavirus for a year or so. That means 10% could still get reinfected within that year. A quote from this Danny Altman. They have precisely the same risk as anyone out there, thus a small but significant number of reinfections, end quote, he told NPR in an email. But that's just one man's guess. Other experts suggest that reinfection is much rarer. Quote, you'll never have the distribution of anything with millions of people where you don't have some very severe rare cases happening at the fringe, end quote. Michael Mina, a pediatric immunologist at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, told the New York Times. Despite all the talk, experts have no way of knowing how common reinfection actually is. Asymptomatic reinfections are almost definitely underreported, so the number could be much higher than what researchers estimate. It's also difficult to confirm reinfections because to do so, experts must test the virus genetic material for differences. Many people with COVID-19 never get tested at all, and only some labs are equipped to analyze viral genomes. It seems like most people who get reinfected are asymptomatic or don't get as sick during their second fight with the disease. But some are worse the second time around. That was the case for the Nevada man and another patient in Ecuador. And a Dutch woman died after being reinfected, researchers reported last week, the first time someone has died from having COVID-19 twice. Immunocompromised people, such as the Dutch woman who had cancer and was receiving chemotherapy treatment, may be at higher risk for infection, according to the Times. Now, I don't know which Times this is, New York Times, the Times in England. For others, the first infection could be too mild to provoke strong immunity against the coronavirus. Alternatively, a person who has immunity from their first infection could get a large dose of the virus later, which could make them sick again before their immune system has a chance to kick into gear to prevent reinfection. Because reinfection is possible, no one should act as if they're invincible after recovering from COVID-19. I'm going to read that again. Because reinfection is possible, no one should act as if they're invincible after recovering from COVID-19. A quote, individuals who have tested positive for SARS-CoV-2, which is the official name of COVID-19, should continue to take serious precautions when it comes to the virus, including social distancing, wearing face masks, and hand washing, end quote. Mark Pandori, a professor of pathology at the University of Nevada, Reno School of Medicine, and co-author of the case study about the 25-year-old, said in a statement. Reinfection also means natural herd immunity is probably not a viable strategy for thwarting the pandemic. Herd immunity is the concept that only part of a population needs to be immune to an infectious disease to stop outbreaks of that disease. Herd immunity can occur naturally through spread of the virus or through vaccination. But if some individuals get sick again after being infected once, natural herd immunity is flawed. Another quote. We cannot rely on immunity acquired by natural infection to confer herd immunity. Not only is this strategy lethal for many, but also it is not effective. End quote. Akiko Awasaki, an immunobiologist at the Yale School of Medicine, wrote in an editorial accompanying the case study. Even without reinfection, relying on natural herd immunity is a bad idea. For most infectious diseases, about 70 to 90% of the population needs to be immune to reach herd immunity. But only about 10 to 15% of US residents are immune to the coronavirus, according to the New York Times. Because more than 214 people have already died from COVID-19 in the US, and the country is nowhere near achieving herd immunity, we can expect many more deaths if the government opts for this approach, an approach that many scientists have advocated we steer clear of. We steer clear of it. The better way to reach herd immunity is through a vaccine. Although people can get reinfected with COVID-19, this shouldn't make a vaccine any less effective. Vaccines can be designed to grant longer lasting and stronger immunity than the body does naturally in response to infection. Iwasaki told NPR, quote, "The good thing about a vaccine is that it can induce much better immunity." Now, that, as I said, that's from fatherly.com. Health science, yes, you can get reinfected with COVID-19. Here's what that means. And I'll check to see if the links are available after I've finished here. So, this is quite a thorough article, and it shows us something we might need to be reminded of. The first thing is that this is a novel virus. That is, it's new to us, so the experts are still learning about it, how it infects, how it spreads, and what it does to the body, etc. Not knowing is not the same as my opinion is as good as yours. There are experts who are doing all they can to study and find out the truth about this virus, and then they pass on this information as soon as they can, as soon as it's verified. One thing we can say about this virus is that it presents itself in so many different ways. And as an example of that, I'm going to read a short bit from this week's, is it this week's, maybe last week's, New Scientist. I've been getting this for absolutely donkey's years. It's an English publication, or British I should say, but it contains the whole world of science, not just anything from Britain. And there's an article in this one. It's October 10 to 16, 2020, and it's COVID-19 Symptoms Rethink. And it's a whole host of things. Let me just read the subtitle. There is more variability in signs of COVID-19 than we thought. Understanding them could be key to treatment and reducing spread, finds Jessica Hamze-Liu. And it gives you kind of little breakout box here, which is 6 types of COVID-19. And it says, a team from the COVID symptoms study has split the disease into 6 types. Again, I've left the link at the bottom for this article. 1, flu-like symptoms, no fever. Headache, loss of smell, cough, sore throat and aches and pains, but no fever. Around 1.5% of this group will go on to require breathing support in hospital. So if any of those things happen to you, don't just think, oh, it's the change in the humidity or something. Get it checked out. 2, flu-like symptoms with fever. Similar to group 1, plus a loss of appetite and fever. Again, get it checked out. 3, gastrointestinal, intestinal, I suppose, if you want. Diarrhea alongside loss of smell and appetite, headache, sore throat, and chest pain. Typically, no cough. 4, fatigue. This cluster is considered more severe than the previous 3, at 8.6%, as 8.6% require breathing support. Fatigue accompanies headache, loss of smell, cough, chest pain, and fever. 5, confusion. Another severe category. People experience confusion in addition to symptoms listed in cluster 4. Around 10% will require breathing support. And 6, abdominal and respiratory. Considered the most severe cluster, because almost half will require hospitalization and around a fifth will need breathing support. Symptoms include headache, fever, loss of smell and appetite, cough, sore throat and chest pain, along with shortness of breath, diarrhea and abdominal pain, muscle pain, confusion and fatigue. So those, what they're saying, is this 6 types of COVID-19, or is it just 6 ways of presenting the same illness? It's really confusing, but if you have any of those, please do get them checked out. Now, in this world where we live in, we're used to everything being confused. And so regarding COVID-19, there is the truth about COVID-19, and then there are the lies. And I'm just going to put it to you as bluntly as I can. I would trust one Dr. Anthony Fauci over 1,000 Donald Trumps. Out of the 2 of them, only one knows what he's talking about. But then some people might say, well, it can't be that bad because I don't know anybody who's had COVID-19 or who have died, who have been in hospital. Well, if that is you, this next article is also for you. It's from medicalexpress.com. That's medical, then with an X, express.com. And again, hopefully the link will be there below. This is its subheading. Don't know any COVID-19 patients who've died or been in hospital? That may explain a lot. And then this is the article itself. 7 months into the pandemic, it's no secret that plenty of people still downplay the risks of COVID-19, scoffing at mask wearing and social distancing. 7 months in the pandemic, it's no secret. Oh, I've just read that bit. Politics clearly feeds that mindset, as suggested by a new Pew Research Center survey, in which Republicans were more likely to say the crisis was overblown. Others may resist restrictions, capacity limits in restaurants, say, because their livelihoods are at stake. And psychologists have warned that COVID-19 fatigue can lead people to be careless about precautions. But a more fundamental reason for the uneven support of COVID-19 prevention measures may lie in simple math. Despite more than 200,000 deaths and 400,000 hospitalizations in the United States, an Inquirer analysis suggests that in much of the country, the typical person knows no one in either of those 2 categories. Surveys, including another one by Pew, have reached similar conclusions. That explanation may seem jarring. Do we really need to know someone who is gravely ill in order to practice safe behavior? But psychologists say it makes sense. Human beings are notoriously poor at evaluating risk, particularly when the threat in question is more abstract or when numbers are involved. A personal connection to a problem makes it seem more real, said Carnegie Mellon University researcher Julie Downs, director of the Center for Risk Perception and Communication. Quote, if you know a bunch of people who've gotten sick, or if you have a family member who died or got sick with COVID, especially if it's someone you know well enough that you were with them and helping them, you're naturally going to think that it's more likely to happen in general, she said. Other research suggests that a failure to embrace COVID-19 restrictions may be fueled by a lack of empathy. in the same way that someone in rural Pennsylvania may not view urban gun violence as an urgent problem, or that those without military family members may give less thought to the ongoing toll of combat. In one study, psychologists found that people who expressed higher levels of concern for people with COVID-19 were more likely to report that they had limited social interaction to reduce the spread of the disease. What's more, the researchers found they could influence a person's level of concern. In the same study, a different group of participants was directed to read a passage about how social distancing would relieve pressure on hospitals and prevent severe illness, especially among the elderly. Another group read the same passage and also watched a video about a 91-year-old man who was worried the virus would infect his chronically sick wife, while a third group did neither. Afterward, those who watched the video and read the passage were more likely to express support for COVID-19 restrictions than those who only read the passage, the author reported in Psychological Science. And those who only read the passage were no more likely to support restrictions than those who had received no information at all. Wow, that's surprising. The findings suggest that in seeking to encourage safe behaviour, public health officials may need to supplement facts with an appeal to empathy, said lead author Stefan, this is going to be interesting, Fatheiker, an associate professor of psychology and behavioral science at Aarhus University in Denmark. I am so sorry, Stefan, if I've just slaughtered your last name. The knowledge is there, he said, but some people don't adhere to this knowledge. Maybe information is not enough. As for the math of not knowing someone with severe COVID-19, let's take it step by step. To determine the chance that two events will occur, you multiply the probability of one by the other, such as when you flip a coin once, the chance of getting heads is 50%. Flip it twice, and the chance of getting heads both times is 50 times 50, 25%. 3 flips, and the chances they're all heads is 25% cubed, 12.5%, and so on. Here's how it works with COVID-19. So far in the United States, 1 in roughly 800 people has been hospitalized, meaning the chance that a given person has not been hospitalized is 799 out of 800, 99.9%. So the chance that any two people have not been hospitalized is 799 divided by 800 times 799 divided by 800, which is 99.7%. For 3 people, it gets to 99.6%, and so on. My brain hurts. Parenthesis. This method isn't strictly accurate because picking a person at random from the entire US population is not like flipping a coin, and the odds of COVID-19 hospitalization for each additional individual person added to the calculation will be ever so slightly different. Also, the true probability that a given person knows somebody with severe COVID-19 will vary wildly depending on geography and age, said Ashton Verdery, a demographer at Pennsylvania State University. But after hearing a description of the inquiry calculation, he said it was reasonable as a rough approach. Let's see what Kit just said. Thank you, Father A. Our neighbour, Rosemary, was the first person in Pasco County. She was a vibrant, active woman who had one precondition. She believed those who said that's the precondition. She believed those who said COVID-19 was a hoax, instead of her grandmother who urged her to wear a mask and take precautions. Yeah, that is just awful. So, yeah, it's a rough approach, but it's a reasonable rough approach, says somebody who knows all about this kind of thing. Then take the fact that the average American knows about 600 people, as researchers at Columbia and Princeton universities have calculated. Take this 799 over 800 raised to the 600th power, multiplied by itself 600 times, and the result is close to 50%. That is, there is about a 50-50 chance that the average person does not know someone who was hospitalized with COVID-19. Doesn't that mean to say there's a 50% chance that the average person does know? Anyway, on with the text. Same goes for deaths. One in about 1,600 Americans has died of COVID-19, leaving 1,599 of 1,600 that have not. Take 1,599 over 1,600 raised to the 600th power, and you find the typical person has greater than a 2/3 chance of not knowing someone who's died of the disease. These estimates are roughly consistent with a Pew survey in August, in which 4 in 10 Americans said they knew someone who had been hospitalized or died as a result of having COVID-19. In a reminder that the disease has hit harder in communities of color, 57% of Black Americans said they knew someone who'd been hospitalized or died. The racial gap is especially acute in Philadelphia, according to a new Pew survey last week. 1/3 of Black and Hispanic residents said they knew someone who had died of COVID-19, compared with just 1 out of 8 white Philadelphians. Human beings have a good sense of relative risk, said Downs, the Carnegie Mellon researcher. We know it's safer to stand back from a cliff than stand on the edge. But when it comes to evaluating numbers, our perceptions are easily distorted. And after 7 months of pandemic, those numbers will only get bigger. Well, yeah, I mean, I've read those numbers like 3 times now, and they're still like, what? Hello, Paula. I almost got it right. And hello, Michael and Jenny. But like I said, the link for that article is down there, so you can read it and be confused. Or maybe not, because you may be a numbers person that's into demography and statistics and stuff. Now, why have I gone to all this trouble to spend 37 minutes on all of this? Well, because of what the last article says, COVID fatigue. As you well know, and as you can see, I'm not built for sports. Yeah, I can't think of any. I'm not even good enough for sumo. I'm just too small for that. But I do like listening about how people develop their sporting prowess and what it takes, and then the kind of mind process while they play, and the focus, the absolute focus that's required for them to get through a game. And if you kind of listen to what people say in varying sports that require intense concentration over a period of time, the people will tell you basically the same thing, that it's the last few minutes of the game that require extraordinary concentration, because not only is the body fatigued, but the mind is as well. And it's at this point that mistakes are often made to the detriment of the player. And it is one of those literal, you take your eye off the ball moments. And if you do take your eye off the ball, you lose. Now, I love you all way too much for me to want you to get even a sniffle while we are suffering through this pandemic. So there's a lot of, I'm just going to bullet point all these things with the word need in caps. You need to keep masked. You need to continue social distancing, even with friends. This is where it gets really hard for people, because friends assume friends are as diligent as you are, that you are diligent. You cannot take for granted that some other person has not been in a risky situation, not because they've wanted to or done it on purpose, but because it happens. Josh, leading a lesson, socially distanced, and he did the right thing, because once he found out that person tested positive, for whatever reasons that person did, he got tested. He then isolated himself, and he could easily have just thought, oh well, you know, she was X number of feet, or she or he was X number of feet away, and so I'm okay, and just got on with things. That would have been the exact opposite of what you need to do. You need to continue with social distancing, even with friends. You need to ignore the ignorance coming out of the White House. You need to ignore those conspiracists who claim making us wear masks is some form of control that they are imposing on us. And you need to do all you can to avoid becoming a statistic. Now, can I get an amen for that? I really do hope so. So, with all that heavy, heavy news, which, again, we're all tired, we're all bored, we're all just becoming deaf to it. Let's have something a bit more uplifting. And the topic for today is to do with the wonderful psalm we had presented to us on Sunday morning. Psalm 96. Where did I put the... Oh, there it is. Right. This psalm is just so full of, well, everything. It's a beautiful, beautiful... David, if he wrote this, must have just woke up in a really good mood. The sun must have been shining and everything must have gone well. And he comes out with this. Oh, you're welcome, Laurie. So on Sunday, we read verses 1 through 9 of Psalm 96. I'm going to read through verses 1 through 13, which was an option in the lectionary, but we were pushing it in terms of what I could get on the bulletin. So I reduced it to the accepted verses 1 through 9. But here we go. Verse 1. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord all the whole earth. Sing to the Lord and bless his name. Proclaim the good news of his salvation from day to day. Declare his glory among the nations and his wonders among all peoples. For great is the Lord and greatly to be praised. He is more to be feared than all gods. As for all the gods of the nations, they are but idols. But it is the Lord who made the heavens. Oh, the majesty and magnificence of his presence. Oh, the power and the splendor of his sanctuary. Ascribe to the Lord, you families of the peoples. Ascribe to the Lord honor and power. Ascribe to the Lord the honor due his name. Bring offerings and come into his courts. Worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Let the whole earth tremble before him. Tell it out among the nations, the Lord is king. He has made the world so firm that it cannot be moved. He will judge the peoples with equity. Let the heavens rejoice, and let the earth be glad. Let the sea thunder, and all that is in it. Let the field be joyful, and all that is therein. Then shall all the trees of the wood shout for joy before the Lord when he comes to judge the earth. He will judge the world with righteousness, and the peoples with his truth. That is such an amazingly uplifting, and it just makes you happy and giddy with happiness. And I just love this because it just speaks to me in so many ways. Sing to the Lord a new song. We're allowed to do new things. We're not set in our ways as to how we worship God. We're not fixed in any patterns that we just sing what was old. We bring out of our treasury both what is old and what is new. So how we present ourselves to God doesn't have to fit in any formula from the past. We can be ourselves before God, and we can actually write new songs, as has always been the case. Now our new songs may fall into one of three categories. Incredibly good, and they're the ones that we are going to keep singing forever. Kind of middling, because the theology is a bit ropey, which we may sing for a while. They'll be there for a season. And those that will not pass muster because their theology is so terrible, or they're just lousy tunes, and they'll just disappear. And as it was, it will still be. This has happened throughout the history of music and Christian music. What we have is the cream that floated to the top, and we still use those in our hymnals, and we have 19th century, 20th century, and we're coming in now, we're in the 21st century. There'll be other songs that will be rising to the top that we will be using. I mean, just think of something like Taizé, some of the music that's come from there, out of the hundreds of tunes. we do sing a few of them. And as we move forward, we'll be finding there's more songs that we can sing that will become our own personal favorites. But when we express ourselves before God, the sky's the limit. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord all the whole earth. Now, the idea of the whole earth sing a new song and blessing the Lord is just, I love it. And when I look at the little creatures and I just see them all as being created by God and in their own way rejoicing through life. Verse 2, sing to the Lord and bless his name. Proclaim the good news of his salvation from day to day. Now, for those of you who are aficionados of the Thursday afternoon Bible study, you know that there's a couple of ways of using the word bless. There's the God down, where God does something to and for us, and the kind of horizontal one where we look at what the person is doing and how it will end up for them, which as a blessing will be a good thing. And this is the use of that word. What God is doing amongst us is a blessing. So we bless him, we thank him, and acknowledge and see what God is doing in us and in the world. And when we see that as a blessing, we proclaim the good news of his salvation from day to day. His salvation is for us, and it is for the whole of creation. And we proclaim it day in, day out. Declare his glory among the nations and his wonders to all people. Declare means tell. So part of us singing a new song and doing it our way is for us to express to other people, to other nations, all people, just who this God is whom we worship. But it gives you a reason why. For great is the Lord and greatly to be praised. He is more to be feared than all gods. Now, the word fear here isn't all kind of, ooh, he scares me. He's all powerful and he's just going to blast me with lightning. No, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It's this comprehension of who God is. This from, God, maybe a reasonable idea, to, God, the creator of everything. I exist because of God's love. We all exist because of God. In fact, all of creation exists because of God's love, this outpouring within the Trinity to be creative. And we are the result of that love. And so this is what the word fear, sometimes I wish they would change it. But sometimes we really just have to explain the words. He is more to be feared than all God. He's more to be given thanks for and appreciated and raised in visibility than all gods, small g, because they don't exist. As it says in the next verse, as for all the gods of the nations, they are but idols. But it is the Lord who made the heavens. Now we know this to be true. We know this has been written in a different time in history, centuries and centuries ago, millennia ago, where nations did have other gods that they said, our God does this, yours is trash. And they would argue about it. And we still live in a world where not only are there a lot of different religions that have different gods, but as I mentioned on Sunday, if we don't have a God, we invent one. If we don't have an idol, we invent an idol. As for all the gods of the nations, they are but idols. So if you're not following the God Almighty, the one to whom we sing in joy, the one who we appreciate and understand has made everything, including us, and he's done it because of love, then we're following a God who's actually an idol. We're not recognizing that it is this Lord who made heaven and earth. And then the author goes into rhapsodies of seeing gratefulness with this God. Oh, the majesty and magnificence of his presence. Oh, the power and the splendor of his sanctuary. Now, this is the basis of worship, that when we come together as a worshiping community, we don't just think, well, we've done this 1,000,001 times before, let's get it over with. I hope the sermon isn't too long. But we come with an expectation of being in the presence of God, and that we understand that this powerful God comes to us within his sanctuary. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a particular church building, because where the two or three are gathered in his name, Jesus is in the midst. But we recognize that God is with us. God is amongst us. God is in us. And if we actually believe that, it should change a lot of how we act and believe, and especially how we approach worship. So what does the psalmist say? Ascribe to the Lord, you families of the peoples. Ascribe to the Lord honor and power. When you ascribe, you give name to. So it's like, God, this is who I am. This is what I have. But it all comes from you. The honor is yours. What's the old saying that behind every successful man there's a surprised woman, or something like that, an amazed woman? It's true that what we have, even if we think we're self-made, it's not true. We belong to a community, we belong to a family, we belong to a country which has shaped us somehow. But at the end, we belong to God, and everything belongs to God, because it's all his. And if we take that to be true, then what we have is not ours. So we ascribe to the Lord everything. And we bring offerings, and we come into his courts. Again, we don't actually come into his courts now. This isn't to tell you when you bring your offertory down in the plate that comes to the altar rail. This is you recognizing everything that you have or think you have, from your intellect to your kindness, to your service, to everything, your time that you've used and the time you've got left comes from God, and you bring it to him. You bring everything to him. And then we turn from ascribing all things to God to worshipping God again. Worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Let the whole earth tremble before him. Now, if you watch YouTube for any amount of time, you'll find there are some videos about dogs and cats. And some of the dog videos, I'm a dog person, so I tend to watch those. You'll see a dog that is so excited. It's kind of, I love you, but without the I love you bit. And they're just so excited that they're shaking with excitement. And this is what's being mentioned here. Worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Holiness is not this set-asideness, but it's the wholeness that we bring our whole selves, and we recognize the inner beauty that we have because it's God-given. That there's no one on earth to whom God says, wow, you are ugly. But we all come with a God-given beauty, and we tremble before him, as does the whole earth. It's just so excited to be in the presence of God. And then we move to the last 4 verses. Tell it out among the nations, the Lord is king. He has made the world so firm that it cannot be moved. He will judge the peoples with equity. It's kind of 3 different things we hear here. Tell it out among the nations, the Lord is king. Well, again, we lived in a time here, the author lived in a time here where monarchies were a big thing. There are still some on the planet now, but they're nowhere near as powerful as they used to be. So to say the Lord is king is to say, yeah, we have a king or a queen, but that person is nothing compared to the one who is the Lord of all. And so we ascribe to the Lord God Almighty, the power which is above anything that any human monarch could state. So you're kind of gazumping the monarch at that place. And history shows there have been many attempts to try and twist scripture to make monarchs seem to be God in person. And the King James Version is a pretty good example of that, trying to make sure that the king is mentioned almost in the same breath as God Almighty. Excuse me. He has made the world so firm that it cannot be moved. This is not a scientific rationale for why earthquakes shouldn't happen. It is not a scientific rationale for stating that the universe is not in motion, that the planet isn't part of a solar system that's in motion. It's not part of a galaxy that's in motion. So obviously we need to say that science is poppycock because this says the world is so firm it cannot be moved. No, it's talking about the fact that when God brings something into existence, it is real and stable and does what God says it will do. Even the earth is under the authority of God. And then we have, he will judge the peoples with equity. This understanding that even if we had the best justice system on the planet, it would still be flawed because humans are flawed. Humans make mistakes. Humans are biased. Humans can bring their own modus operandi to make sure that justice is thwarted rather than granted. Only God is unbiased and is just. And we look forward to that judgment because when we are judged, we know it will be an honest and truthful judgment as to who we really are as individuals, as communities, as nations. And it will be the final word as to who we are. Verse 11, let the heavens rejoice and let the earth be glad. Let the sea thunder and all that is in it. Let the field be joyful and all that is therein. Rejoice, roar, thunder. I just love it. The heavens. This is not to do with where the angels are strumming the harps and floating around on clouds. This is, the sky full of birds and letting you know that you live in Tampa, Florida, when it cracks open with lightning every few minutes. Let the earth be glad, the growth that comes up and shows forth all the fruits of the earth. And they wave in the field, in the breezes, as if they're sort of vibrating to the motions of the earth and rejoicing. The sea thunder and all that is in it, the crashing waves that come, that are destructive and also cause growth at the same time, and all that is in it, all these creatures, the vast number of which we still don't know of, which is amazing when you think about it. There's still so much to be discovered in all its weirdness, and some of them are really weird, and in all its difference, and how it represents the creativity of our God. Then shall all the trees of the wood shout for joy before the Lord when he comes to judge the earth. I absolutely love this. I read a book when I was on vacation once, and here it is. I dug it out. It's called The Hidden Life of Trees. This guy is, he's a forester. I think that's the best way. Maybe it'll tell me on the back. Spent 20 years working for the Forestry Commission in Germany before leaving to put his ideas about ecology into practice. He now runs an environmentally friendly woodland where he works for the return of primeval forests. He's the author of numerous books about trees. And this is just a fascinating book. You see the last bit, what they feel. Sorry, I can't get in focus. How they communicate. Discoveries from a secret world. There is really more to trees than we can imagine, that they do actually communicate, and they do it through chemicals and through root systems. It's just fascinating. Some of it in the book is conjecture, but he also uses a lot of science that's been built up. I'm not going to tell you to go and hug trees, because that would turn you into Prince Charles, and I wouldn't want that for anyone. But respect the trees, really do. And the idea that within this psalm, the trees of the wood shout for joy. I can just imagine it. Read that book and you'll probably imagine it as well. And finally, he will judge the world with righteousness and the peoples with his truth. We should never, ever fear the truth. Liars do fear the truth, because they live in the world of darkness and shadows. Paula, well, thank you, Kit. Yes, thank you for featuring the hidden life of trees. And Paula says, we are Groot. I'd like to be, is it mini Groot, baby Groot, rather than the big Groot, a sapling from Groot. And if you don't know who Groot is, then you need to watch some of the thing is, oh gosh, of the galaxy. What's it called, Paula? Brain died. Oh, it's 2 movies, 3 movies out. I think he appears in the second movie. I'm not sure. Anyway, yes, we are supposed to be people of light. Liars live in darkness and shadows, and because we've moved into the light of Christ, we are supposed to be people of the truth. And so we highlight where there's iniquity, injustice, and poverty, and things that should be changed, that we don't just sit around. Guardians of the Galaxy, thank you. Oh, that one word, guardians. I knew it was of the galaxy. Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Paula. And this is who we are to become. This is part of the growth, the flourishing into which Christ calls us. And we highlight the darkness. And so we call a lie a lie. We don't say, oh, well, you know, it's a difference of opinion and this, that, and the other. And we live in this horrible world where lies are going back and forth. And we just need to call them out. And we also need to make sure that we move away from them as well, that we are not associated with them. And sometimes it's more difficult than others, especially when we are invested in something and we think that a lie is good in its place. Well, it isn't. I want to be like the trees. I want to shout for joy. And I want that righteousness to come, because when the day of judgment does come, which it will come to everyone, I want to be among those who are at God's right hand rather than his left, even though I'm a lefty, and so I have a lefty bias. I hope that helped. I really wanted to say something on Sunday about that psalm, but my brain thought otherwise when I sat down to write my sermon. But I knew I wanted to do it today. And I've gone over time, so thank you so much for sticking with me. Again, I really appreciate you spending time with me on a Tuesday morning. I hope it hasn't been too weird or fabulously odd. Please stay safe. Keep me in your prayers as you are in mine. And I hope to see you all on Thursday. So keep safe and God bless.